to welcome you to the Tesla 19.
Okay, it's pretty laggy for some reason. Let's hope that fixes it.
Let's begin with a little history lesson, shall we?
That's
In 1943,
that's
It's about like 3 seconds behind.
yeah.
Oh my.
Why is you doing it? I cried. We got the table.
We got the table.
I'll try restarting the file. See if that does things. That's doing things that are weird.
Bounce a graviton particle beam off the main deflector dish.
I'll try it.
Reverse the polarity.
We're just making shit up as we go.
So, does anybody feel that Atomic Robo has a core story that's never really been touched upon? And everything so far is just side story to the main arc of Atomic Robo?
Try media player. Sorry.
Like, we really don't know how he went from the little boy chap robot
hello
to
there.
Tesla die.
You must be that new employee.
And it's
Maybe
a
a
big,
lag between the computer and the projector.
Maybe, or my laptop's not very powerful. This is a very big file.
just put YouTube it.
But we don't have the internets.
Did you even try the password?
Not yet, but
Do it.
we'll try this first. See if it works. Okay.
You turned the volume all the way down, Bella.
The audio syncs perfectly now.
No, the volume is all right.
I know. I'm just restarting it. So.
Room full of nerds. You gotta deal with it.
Hello there.
Whoa!
You must.
I got it. Don't worry about it.
It's still laggy
It's
as
better to
hell.
turn the volume on the computer up to max and turn it down on here.
Yeah.
Who's recording at that guy, the glass panel on Mark? I need the footage.
Hello there. You must.
It's still laggy as hell.
Wait, are you sure and you're just not like being too sensitive to it?
I've seen
It'll
this
go
thing
up
a million
there.
times.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to get some clips.
Try the other. No, you can.
Okay.
Be that new
Yeah,
employee.
you go up there.
Let me be the first to welcome you to the Tesla 19.
No, it's way off.
Okay, just, is this on YouTube?
It is on YouTube.
This is on YouTube.
So, proceeding on with the discussion of Atomic Robo,
Okay.
how many people here have read all of 8-Bit Theater?
Not just the cameras.
I saw it too.
How
All
can
right,
you,
we-
how can you
I'm
poss-
sorry there will be no audio-visual portion of this panel.
how many of you guys are familiar
If you go to
with
YouTube and Google Atomic Robo, you
Okay, Atomic Robo. Who here is actually familiar with the character in the comic Atomic Robo? Okay, 2 people. Atomic Robo is basically the story of Nikola Tesla's atomic-powered, artificially intelligent robot who fights evil with science. This is essentially the entire series premise, and everything draws off it. A big focus of the series is on the power of science and the importance of science.
Are you sure this is not a Spoonie panel?
No,
Okay.
this has absolutely nothing to do with Dr. Insano. This is actually like,
Yeah.
the series has humorous elements, but it's treated seriously. That science isn't a joke, science isn't a punchline. Science is an important thing within the series. And it captures that, almost that wonder of science when you're a kid, before you start looking at the bits and bobs of it.
So this is more Mr. Wizard science instead of that jerk Carl Sagan. No wait, sorry,
No,
the jerk
Carl
is...
Sagan is...
No, this is Carl Sagan science.
Who's the jerk?
You're
The other
thinking
guy.
of Stephen Hawking.
Man, what a dick.
Hawking!
Yeah. Imagine about him talking about time, the problem is it never goes anywhere. But even if he has all the scientific data, the problem is that it's all BS because obviously it's bad science.
Well, and it's not, and that's the great thing about the series is it's one of the few that takes this this idea of advanced science, science being important, and doesn't add the phrase "mad" to it.
Yeah.
That science is a force for good in the world in Atomic Robo. That science can make the world better.
They're also very good at using old science, like old debunked science, as legitimate science, all when it's in that time period, like OA energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yes.
Yeah, the some of Thomas Edison's crazier theories are in fact are treated as fact.
Yeah.
Much to Edison's detriment. This series is not kind to Thomas Edison.
No.
As it shouldn't be.
Well,
Guys suck.
this series very much this series very much
Tesla.
it very much glorifies Nikola Tesla and treats Edison as an asshole. If you've read 5 Fists of Science, this is an even more heroic treatment of Tesla. Where there's the scene in one of the stories where he has the Tesla-powered armor,
Yes.
and he beats the shit out of Thomas Edison.
Hey, here's the thing about Thomas Edison. What did he rip off from Nikola Tesla? Because the light bulb wasn't from Tesla. It's actually from William Swan and Joseph Swan and William.
It's not so much and
It's AC/DC, isn't it?
yes and no.
His answer is a lot better than yours.
It's
Gee, thanks. No.
Karaoke.
but consider this: Nikola Tesla is actually the true founder of radio. It was.
But here's the thing as well. When we look at this stuff now, we look at it through the lens of history, and we have to make interpretations. This comic provides one interpretation, and it's a really fun one.
Yes.
Because it provides a very heroic Nikola Tesla. And plays up kind of the wonders that Tesla promised. And
named after a car. He's named after a car.
Which?
The Tesla. Yes. It's a very common electric car based on a Lotus.
Well, wouldn't that the car be named after Tesla?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more
facetious.
sense.
It's a thing.
Pronoun shuffle. Sorry.
Time trouble.
As to the question of the series spans a great deal of time.
Currently, it spans 82 years of Atomic Robo's history.
Yeah.
Actually, longer than that because Real Science Adventures has done some tidbits of Tesla's adventures, which are absolutely amazing.
Cool.
It's Tesla's sky ship versus Brunel's War Zeppelin. It's 9 pages of absolute amazing.
Do you guys dig Venture Brothers?
Oh, of course.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That
There's
really
there's a few parallels between Atomic Robo and Venture Brothers in the same way they'll treat historical figures as characterizations and do incredibly fun, wacky things with them.
Whereas I actually come at it from a background of studying pulp literature.
Yeah.
And I find that Atomic Robo,
We've been abandoned.
and then there were 8.
Sorry, the dance is really cool.
Alright, bye-bye.
Bye.
And then there were less. Atomic Robo is a really pulp comic.
It really is.
It takes these pulp conventions of this square-jawed hero, his team of quirky genius friends, and goes forward with it. It can almost be argued that Atomic Robo is, in many ways, in his later portrayals, this older, more experienced Atomic Robo, a robot version of Doc Savage. A man of steel rather than a literal man of steel, rather than a metaphorical man of bronze. In that he is a genius scientist, he's a genius adventurer. In many ways, Robo is portrayed almost as the ideal man. And his friends kind of bring up the slack. They handle areas where his expertise, it's not necessarily that his expertise doesn't cover them, but his expertise isn't as developed in 1 or 2 areas, or he can't always be there to handle them. I mean, he has a guy named by the name of Jenkins.
Jenkins is his man of violence.
Jenkins is the man of violence from the dimension of the vampires.
He's actually not from the dimension of the vampires.
No. Did I miss part of Jenkins' origin?
You need to read some of the B-sides, I believe. They may not have been reprinted in trade yet.
I have. Okay.
Basically, Majestic stole some Tesla tech and created one of the portals from book 5 and sent in a team, and Jenkins was the last survivor of that team.
Oh. You seem. Bye bye.
I don't want to say bye.
Oh.
Just
Oh.
yet. I do have some.
Okay.
I want to know where I can find this because I love Nikola Tesla.
Just go to, you can go to atomicrobo.com and
Okay.
they will hook you right up.
Yeah.
This is a very easy to find comic right now. It was nominated for an Eisner this year, so it's a fairly large indie book.
And the great thing about Atomic Robo is that you can actually jump in at any trade,
Yeah,
and
it's-
you won't miss anything in the story.
They're all done
Okay.
in the form.
Serial form?
No, it's not. It's mini-series form.
Yeah.
Mini-series form. So this is an independent story that takes place before number 2, and you can read them in any order, and they will all still make sense.
Oh, okay.
If you look on the link on the card there is a review of Atomic Robo in the Shadow of Time,
Yeah.
where Atomic Robo teams up with Carl Sagan to fight Cthulhu.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It-
That's so funny.
I recommend starting with either volume 3 or volume 5.
3 or 5.
3 or 5.
Just before you go, there is one line, and this line, if this line doesn't sell you on it, I'm not sure what else. And Carl Sagan, finding out that the Cthulhu is coming, builds a science gun. We are made of star stuff. Our consciousness, our intelligence is the machinery of the cosmos discovering itself. Our science will be its candle in the dark. When you return to your unobservable but empirically determined dimension of origin, tell them Carl Sagan sent you.
Very good.
Have a good night.
You.
Thanks for coming out.
No. I think the clock there, but I like that. The computer clock, that's it.
We're not going to get to 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, but regarding on the science being the future of technology, what do you think about the concepts of cyberpunk? Because the thing is, it's been so popular in the 80s where probably technology has gone too far to the point that we are in the age of stupidity.
We are cyberpunk right now. Like, what we are living in right now is unbelievably close to a cyberpunk novel. We may not have mentally inserted internet, but I've got a phone over there that lets me hook up to the internet and make phone calls and do word processing and record music and listen to music. And it
Reads
is
my favorite comic books.
exactly, and it is everything that I was promised by William Gibson. We are cyberpunk right now. We are any literature that deals with cyberpunk now, I believe, almost has to be post-cyberpunk. Atomic Robo is definitely not cyberpunk.
Yet. Brian picked up an original book of Shadowrun. He's like, volume 9.
Future Atomic Robo.
I don't think it's future time. I think he's just going to build in some elements of that for fun.
But even then, I think that any study that we make of cyberpunk, we must look looking through our current consciousness would be what would almost be termed post-cyberpunk, back during the cyberpunk era. We have actually matched the expectations of science fiction for once.
I think we've beaten it, haven't we? Because most of them talking like
Modems.
modems in the gigabyte range, like it's like 30 gigabytes. My gosh.
I'm reminded of the scene in Hackers. It's a 28.8 PPS.
I love Johnny Mnemonics. I've doubled it to 8 gigs.
Yes. To be fair, Johnny Mnemonic is mainly memorable for writing Keanu Reeves's the most emotive Keanu Reeves has ever been on screen. As screen as he stands on top of a pile of garbage and screams, "I want room service!" and goes on this rant about how much his life sucks. And it is probably the most emotional performance Keanu Reeves has ever delivered in a film.
Well, except for Shakespeare work.
To woe or not to woe? That is the question.
It's totally not it too.
Nah, just the poor remake of the Dangerous and stuff. I think.
Forsooth we are, wild stepped. And we are so totally not talking about robots.
It happens.
As much as he would have been annoying, guy who was sort of trying to run the panel from the audience was kind of providing banter.
I got a question that's particular to this.
Ask, please.
I didn't get a chance, like I read the snippets, there's a
Free comic book day?
with promotional materials.
Yeah.
He was talking to a dinosaur from the past, a dinosaur from the future, and then he was like explaining to him why the time travel wouldn't work and how far the Earth has traveled. Which comic is that? Because I'd like to track that one down. Or is that just a snippet that was specifically for comic book?
Do I also get paid?
That was Free Comic Book Day, but it is collected in volume 4.
Where's the tape from?
So
Okay.
you can read that story with extended material in volume 4.
Okay, because that's a comic. I just remember the whole story to that because it's just.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's,
Sugar will
that's
keep
pretty
me
much
alive right
this right there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You got a long time traveling dinosaurs.
Dr. Dinosaur is...
If he is, that
Yeah,
is.
and Dr. Dinosaur really raises the question because Dr. Dinosaur's origins are never explained. He explains them, but Dr. Dinosaur is the ultimate unreliable narrator because it is entirely possible that he is also completely insane.
It's fairly likely, actually. But that doesn't preclude that he might be a time traveler.
But then again,
He's a dimensional
it
traveler.
raises some very good questions about time travel. And I actually went on a little rant about this on Twitter, and people were basically telling me, "Shut up, dude, it's science fiction." Which is that, in my opinion, the DeLorean is the worst form of time travel that you could ever have.
Oh God, space.
Whereas the whenever you time travel, you definitely need something like a TARDIS.
Yes.
Because the TARDIS compensates. It doesn't freaking matter if you can time travel from one point to another, or if you time travel off into the middle of nowhere, if you've already got a spaceship.
Well, like TARDIS is.
My rebuttal is that was that the time machine from Ninja Turtles 3 also works.
Yeah.
They dropped the idea.
In the words of Dr. Dinosaur, however, he travels in time and relative dimensions in space. That's the TARDIS, Silence! I do not even know who Tom Baker is!
The best part is, there's a little like 10-year-old kid who goes, "Who's Tom Baker?"
And that is the greatness of Dr. Dinosaur, is he is not, they deliberately underuse him.
They deliberately underuse him, and they pretty much decide that the laws of physics are suspended when he's in the room. So basically, when he's around, it just becomes a bizarre cartoon universe, and it's like, because Dr. Dinosaur is there.
How is his anti-gravity working? Because of crystals!
It plugs into crystals.
Sounds like a.
Is Robo the only one that sees Dr. Dinosaur?
No, he's a thing.
Oh, okay. I just kind of wondering.
If you go to comicrobo.com, you can read last year's Free Comic Book Day, where Dr. Dinosaur invades a science fair to steal a flux capacitor from a little girl.
Oh my god, that is a flux capacitor.
It's a flux capacitor.
I only just put that together, that's...
Well, they show up in the A-Team van as well.
It's true. And that's one of the great things about the series, is the scientists are treated like rock stars.
Yeah.
That's the way the world should work.
It is.
It is.
It's,
Problem is, people
Thank you.
want to see these muscle guys.
now let's talk about why
Keep
Comic
people
Robo is
alive.
a superior comic to everything Marvel and DC is making right now.
Well, let's see here. Atomic Robo never had one more day. Atomic Robo never published Red Hood and the whatevers. Atomic Robo
Let's just talk
never
about
had
the
Superboy Prime. Atomic Robo never had Parallax.
If you go on atomicrobo.com, click on the link The Promise, and it will tell you why Atomic Robo is the best comic out right now. Rule 1, no angst. Rule 2, no cheesecake. Rule 3, no delays. Atomic Robo.
I think
Wait,
no
cheesecake
angst, but I mean
figuratively or
some characters that's what makes some characters interesting at some points. Not constant, but like
It's their argument is that it made comics interesting and new in the 1960s, but it's now 2013, so like, you know, we've done angst for 40 years. Atomic Robo is not going to wail about his humanity and not having it. He's not Commander Data. He's a robot and he's fine with that.
We have no water, only liquor.
I am okay with
Right.
this.
But I kind of imagine a life that Hollywood focused on science. What do you think it would be like going on gossip and all the scandals that were happening?
In the comic Robo comics, as he gets older, you can see his hatred for the press build. In volume 5, in the story I was talking about, when he's going into the science fair, there's just like 1,000 photographers, and he's just like vultures pushing his way in.
Science vultures.
He's science vultures trying to get him in like the science gossip columns.
Yeah, trying to take a picture of Albert Einstein smiling.
Science paparazzi.
There you go.
I'm sorry, they are deliberately referred to as science paparazzi.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my god, it is the 18th
I
man.
told you.
I never noticed that before.
Yeah, who remember that Albert Einstein photo? That actually happened.
Which, the one with him sticking his tongue out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only paparazzi thing I remember that became.
So, also, like we were mentioning earlier, Atomic Robo is not serialized. It is a collection of short stories that are all self-contained within each volume. So if you want to start at volume 2, go right ahead. If you can pick up volume 5, go right ahead. You do not need to read any of this to
You
enjoy
don't
this
need
story.
to track down volume 1. It's a great gimmick for the comic itself, though, especially when they moved into trade.
So, in other words, that's more like an anthology as opposed to.
Well, no, it has
There is continuity between the books, but it's not necessary to know it to enjoy it.
I would.
It's more like watching an episode of Doctor Who. You do not need to see every episode in the season. You will get extra out of it, but you will be able to enjoy in each individual episode.
The older ones, they were serial arcs.
Yeah,
Serial arc.
you know
that's
what?
that's like comics today, where you have to have all of them or you are lost.
No,
Well,
I actually.
the old Doctor Who's you have to watch 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But you
that's.
can watch any 4 of them.
And that's really what Atomic Robo is like. Atomic Robo is like classic television serial format,
Yeah.
where you didn't measure the series in seasons, you measured the series in how many serials there were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can sit in on any one of them. They'll usually give you
Well,
enough.
They'll give you enough hints in
Yeah.
the story, built into the story itself, to let you know what's going
Well,
on.
to put
And
it-
if you
It's
see
kind of
things-
like starting Star Wars with Episode 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, to put it this way, I jumped into Doctor Who with Genesis of the Daleks, classic Tom Baker.
Wow.
And then the Pyramids of Mars, and this is me having only watched the new series and jumping into the classic stuff at random intervals with Tom Baker serials. But you know what? You still know what's going on.
Yeah, 'cause
The series still establishes.
you have your premise, and they run with it, and as long as you know the basics, you're fine.
Oh, yeah.
And in the first issue of this one, Atomic Robo meets H.P. Lovecraft. And it is one of the greatest appearances of Lovecraft in fiction ever. Because it is unabashedly, it's unabashedly Lovecraft.
Yeah. He is racist and unpleasant, and it is hilarious.
Lovecraft traded letters with Robert E. Howard at one point, basically talking about how the different tribes and races that must have come to the British Isles, and in what order to result in the Irish, who are swarthy, so they must have bred with the Italians at some point, and that must have meant that the Irish came after the Celts, who must have been from the Germans because they were blonde and they were strong and they didn't drink a lot and
He was not a well individual.
No.
No.
See, the thing is, you can enjoy someone's work without having to think of the individual in himself.
Lovecraft is a phenomenally enjoyable individual. He's just completely insane and genuinely an awful person.
Sort of like watching Mel Gibson.
Yes.
No, but Mel Gibson's a person. He
More
isn't.
like Tom Cruise.
No. Those people aren't amusing on an intellectual level. The thing is that Lovecraft was actually really, really smart and really well educated for a guy who got very little by the way of actual formal education. His grandfather was responsible for.
Nash from the Beautiful Mind. The guy who did the Nash Equilibrium.
Okay.
Oh. I'm trying to make a comparison here. You don't want to compare.
I'm really tired right now.
Nonetheless, it is a very good portrayal of Lovecraft in a very amusing manner.
Oh yeah, and then his head turns into Cthulhu.
Yeah. And it tries to eat New York, so, you know.
Now, is there continuity?
There is continuity, but like I said,
So
it's,
if New York were eaten, then
he tries to eat New York. Tries.
Well, I'm just wondering if it's the kind of continuity like Aeon Flux, where
Aeon Flux's continuity was about the same level of continuity that you get from one drug trip to another.
Exactly.
Yeah, Flux has a bunch of artists going. It's like this looks pretty.
We have proven that this city runs this way. Next episode, we're going to the first 5 minutes completely silent. Everyone goes into a booth and eats their cabbage. That happens.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
I think I might avoid that one.
Also, the writers like to indulge in pretty much every genre they enjoy.
Yeah.
So there's basically a Sentai battle in book 4, just because Japan has actually.
He says as he holds up 5.
I would love to read a book just about Japan's Sentai team in this book. Wouldn't you?
Their giant robot that costs like 10 million yen for every minute of operation.
This one for a second.
Okay.
It will be returned to you. I'm just gonna.
They talk about how the suits for this team, for every hour of use, they require 8 hours of maintenance.
No, it was like 120 man hours of maintenance that cost like $100,000.
Yeah.
So that was why they could justify having power suits, but why everyone in the world didn't just have these power suits.
And you only put them on for really important things.
Like battling horrible monsters.
And then it turned out that their science mentor basically used to be
Red Ranger.
Yeah, basically used to be the Go Ranger.
Oh lord.
It's quite interesting, and it's a really interesting take on Sentai that fits perfectly into the world.
Yeah, and
Well, it is necessary to come up with a reason why they don't just go to the blazing sword first thing.
Well, they pretty much do in this one. The giant monster comes in and they're like, okay, arc laser, and just no, it was Japan's space agency has a giant rail cannon. It's like, you do? Yep. Boom! And they just blow the back out of a giant crab.
Yeah, but the problem with the suit is that its gyro stabilizers aren't the best. They took an Evangelion take on it, where its own batteries don't last that long, so they have to hook it up by an umbilical cable. So you could basically just trot it around the streets of Tokyo and shoot things, but that's it. That's the reason why they don't just immediately jump into step on the monster before it gets big. Was it, Doc, your railgun worked great, by the way. That is good. Did the Sheikah Beast explode yet? Yet. Next panel, most of the page is just an explosion. And it's a wonderful Sentai thing. Just like, did the monster explode yet?
Okay, next it'll turn giant. It'll come back and be a giant.
Oh, it already turned giant.
Oh well.
That's
Now, the next question is, were all the public running into the streets with crackers to go with the crab meat?
No.
yeah.
Super Science Team 5. Super Science Team Super 5. Guardian mode.
At least it's not Science Ninja Team.
Yeah.
Big
Oh yeah,
Inch.
and they are deliberately fighting putties.
Yeah.
They are actually drawn as putties.
Just because.
Yeah, muscular putties, sure, but they look exactly like the Putty Patrol, which is it's great.
The other thing I love about that issue is the monsters haven't actually shown up since the 70s.
Yeah.
They've just kind of been prepared since then. So they only had like one villain, and once he was gone, they basically just became a think tank that happens to have a Power Ranger team. It's a really that's one of my favorite issues. It really is.
And the series has Nazi villains. It has a storyline where he teams up with the Spider or the Shadow.
Yeah, pretty much.
And falls in love with the lucky assistant.
So, any more questions, or are you just?
Yeah. We're just shooting the shit at this point.
Yeah.
There's nothing with that.
Volume 2 is also a very interesting one because it just Volume 2 went what?
I said shooting the shit is fine as long as it doesn't splatter.
Oh, that's fine. Volume 2 is also very interesting because it focuses completely on his World War II angle.
Yes, and they are great.
Yes. It starts off with a two-parter where he basically the mechanized division develops mechs, so he has to go into the Italian invasion and stop these mech forces before they can crush the invasion. So he has to basically go in and single-handedly knock out a team of Nazi mechs, like walkers, just like. And it's quite entertaining.
Yep, it's true. I think my only complaint about the series is the one book that we don't have on the table deals a lot with Alan Turing. And I felt that there's so much more to Alan Turing that they could have gone into there.
The thing is, that was a very fast story, and going into the Alan Turing explanation hour would have been like.
I know, it's just they.
And the thing is,
so good with other scientists. Carl Sagan is like one of the side characters for the series.
The thing is, the Alan Turing thing is not over.
Yeah.
Anything less than a 6-volume arc would have been not doing enough for Alan.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's focusing on one little thing Alan Turing did that branched out into a bigger thing. And if anything, it'll make people interested in looking up Alan Turing.
Now, to be fair, they did bring up Turing's theory of universal computation.
Yeah.
And
they pretty much say he was a badass.
They did bring up the fact, I guess, that at the time it was revolutionary, this idea that you could take one function on a computer and have it performed in another computer.
And it would do the same thing?
Yeah, and it would do the same thing every time, laying the foundations for actual programming.
It's like the thing, they didn't go that much into Carl Sagan in the Carl Sagan story. Carl Sagan is a badass. Go! They didn't talk about his various works and impact on the scientific community.
I love that Stephen Hawking's only appeared in one panel.
And he's just kind of like, I'm smug and happy because I screwed over Robo.
Yeah.
You're looking particularly happy today.
They shoot Robo up into space towards Mars.
Yeah.
And they're saying so.
They secretly shoot Robo up into space for the Viking mission to make sure everything goes okay because he does not need oxygen. So he's just kind of like going along. And basically, Stephen Hawking puts out a paper in Robo saying he has a sleep mode when he doesn't. So he's awake in a capsule for 6 months, bored out of his mind. And he's just like, Stephen Hawking. Then he writes, Stephen Hawking is a bastard on the face of Mars in giant letters. Because he is like a year on the planet just stacking rocks.
Anyway, we're pretty much coming up.
That's the next
wrapping
thing
up.
that I do when I'm on Minecraft.
Yeah.
There.
Nice.
I don't remember what anyone looks like no more.
That's okay.
Yeah. That's just how much time he has. Alright, I need to
Yeah, I think
make my way off to the bad fan fiction panel.